Hello and welcome back to Bobbin's Minecraft Let's Play featuring the Hoarder's Delight mod pack by Nicole BW. I'm Bobbin and you're watching episode 11. You might recognize this place. This is the Deep Dark. It's a dimension added by the Extra Utilities mod. Normally all the stuff around me should be cobblestone, but of course some of it is now dirt, as you can plainly see. That indicates that I'm running a quarry here. This is in fact my third ender quarry to set up. This one is quarrying out an area that is roughly 800 by 800 blocks. I'm doing it without silk touch this time, which will mean that I get fewer resources, but that I will get more cobblestone for the cobblestone quest. Let's take a look at quests. As you can see, 3 quests are currently completed with unclaimed rewards. So the quests that have been completed are Crunchy. This was the one that I was making the nachos for. Smeltery, which has been completed for a few days now. And in Hoarding Blocks, a new one that I wasn't even working on before has been completed. It's Alive, which involved creating 100,000 living rock brick. My living rock production was proceeding very quickly. I had enough living rock, so I went ahead and set up the machine to make these bricks. It's a very simple machine. Just combine 4 bricks or 4 living rock to get living rock bricks, just like you would do stone to get stone bricks. And it finished very quickly because it was just drawing out of the warehouse that I set up in the previous episode. So that got done very quickly, and it's now done. The reward is 127 blocks of gold. I don't think I'm going to turn that one in today. Let's go ahead and turn in the other 2. Crunchy gives randomite ore and a reward bag. Let's see what's in the reward bag. 64 blocks each of tin, copper, invar, and electrum. The invar and electrum will be particularly useful. I'm not so sure about the tin and the copper. I've actually got tons of tin and copper, but we'll see. Maybe it's always better to have it than not to have it, right? So going back and looking in hoarding stuff, let's turn in Smeltery, which has been waiting for a long time now. This will get me some spawners that will just get stowed, spawn villagers, snow golem and iron golem. Maybe not quite so useful either. I don't need to set up an iron farm or a snow farm, but we'll get this one out of the way, and I'll just take the villagers. Now, let's look at the progress on the other quests. In hoarding food, the other one that's currently being worked on is Taste the Rainbow, and it's now 36% done. This quest is constrained by not having enough wheat or enough sugar cane, and so it's just proceeding as the wheat and sugar cane come in. I may have to expand production on both of those. I've already expanded production on wheat. I added another wheat field on top of the one I already had, so I now have 2 maximum size wheat fields running. Nothing is proceeding in hoarding energy. Nothing is proceeding in hoarding flowers. In hoarding blocks, as mentioned, I already finished this one. House is now at 58%. Abbey is at 88%. Canvas is still at 11%. And Holidays is now at 34%. I did get my Silver Bell farm up and running, and so I've been getting a fair amount of Silver Bell wood. This should finish a little faster than I initially thought it was going to. In hoarding stuff, the only thing currently being worked on is diorite walls. They're at 12%. And in Chapter 7, Are You Out of Your Mind? The only one that's making any progress at all is cobblestone, which is currently at 1.38%. One of the reasons for setting this up without Silk Touch, it will cost me some materials, but it will get more cobblestone in. Eventually I'm going to run out of any uses for smooth stone, and I will just have to jettison it or do something with it to make it into cobblestone. Anything I do with it to make it into cobblestone will be expensive in some way, either in time or in energy or something like that. So for this one quarry, just to see how it works out, I'm just going to quarry all of the stone up as cobblestone. The Y level here is 83, which is a little higher than in the overworld. Plus there's a small region up above this where I'm also getting just stone. So I'm actually going to get more than 55 to 60 levels of stone you might expect mining in the overworld. This should produce somewhere in the neighborhood of 45 million or so cobblestone from this 800 by 800 quarry operating in here. That's my best guess. And that's about 4.5% maybe on the cobblestone quest. So that's definitely progress. It's not a lot. Most of the cobblestone production is probably going to depend on some other mechanism. Now, in other news, this may be a somewhat short episode because I've been fighting a lot of lag. I don't really know the source of all of the lag. It's certainly worse when I'm running the machine that's making the living rock and the living wood. I will be very glad to get that done and torn down. Until I do get that done and torn down and otherwise research and resolve the lag issues, there may be several episodes that are fairly short. So just continuing on here, let me take a brief cut here and I'll be right back and I'll be showing you what is on today's agenda in the overworld. Okay, I'm back. As you can see, I have set up fruit trees. These are from Harvestcraft and they produce fruits. You can just run up to any of these and right click on, let's say, that banana there, and yay, I have a banana. Alright, I need to harvest fruit, and the one that I have decided that I'm going to start on first is the coconuts. The coconuts are used for the quest, I think it's called Rainy or something like that. Let's just take a look here. It's called Rain. Making pina coladas. These use coconuts and pineapples. I haven't set up the pineapples yet, but since the nacho's finished, I have a row available for growing pineapples in, so I will go ahead and get that started on pineapples a little later. There are a few ways of harvesting these things. Obviously you could do it by hand just like I did, but with 100,000 of each at a minimum, that would be prohibitive. Another way to harvest the Harvestcraft fruit is to use the Mine Factory Reloaded Fruit Picker. I'm already using the fruit picker. I don't know that I mentioned it, but I am using it to harvest the cocoa beans. The problem with that approach, from my point of view, is that these Harvestcraft fruits are pretty slow growing. Cocoa beans are not. But these are sufficiently slow growing that you would need a lot of trees and a lot of fruit pickers and a lot of time to get the fruits that you needed in order to produce the foods. So fruit picker is a valid method of doing it. I believe that is the method that Nicole BW is currently using in her own Let's Play. I'm going to use a different method, which is actually the method that Nicole BW started with in her Let's Play, which is I'm going to use an autonomous activator to bone meal and pick the fruit, and then I will just pick up the fruit using a vacuum hopper and send it on down the line. The only issue with this approach is that it uses a lot of bone meal. I don't really think that's going to be a problem though. I'm sitting on 100,000 bone meal in the warehouse right now, and the supply is only going up because I have skeleton seeds growing in my Ender.io farm. They're producing skeleton essence that's used to make bones. The bones are going into sag mills, which give a lot of extra bone meal as a bonus. And so I am getting quite a bit of bone meal, and I believe I will eventually have enough bone meal to, on a sort of an as-you-go basis, produce all of this fruit. At any given time, I will probably only have one different fruit going, and there are 6 of them. I don't guess I mentioned what they all are. Coconuts, which I'm going to start on today, limes, bananas, cherries, lemons, and walnuts. Coconuts, I think I only need 100,000 of. Some of the others need a little more. I think cherries are what require the most. Walnuts are kind of optional in a sense. You do have to have 100,000 of something. It can be either walnuts or olives. These are just getting pressed into oil, which I think is used for the garlic chicken recipe. Anyway, without going any further on that, let's go ahead and get this set up. So if I take an autonomous activator here, and I just put it on this thing, that plucked the fruit, which is not what I needed to do just yet, but let's turn this around so that it is facing the correct direction. So it's facing that fruit. And in here, I want to place some bone meal. And I can see that even though I meant to be prepared in advance with all of these items, I forgot something. I'll have to rectify that shortly. So let's go ahead and put in here I'll have to configure. Let's get the blue in on. It's always hard to configure these things. That's the wrong side though. Should be on this side. Alright. And we're going to have to input bone meal, and I didn't bring a filter with me, so I will have to cut and go back and do that in just a minute. But before I do that, let me go ahead and finish this part of the setup. I'm going to go down here, and the way I'm going to do this, I think, is I'm just going to put the vacuum hopper directly on top of a chest. Now we'll set that to extract. And we'll put the vacuum hopper here. And this needs to connect on the bottom. These things can be a little... Let me dig down a little bit. Maybe I can catch it on the edge. I'm not really sure how you are supposed to get these things to where they're nice and easy, but okay. Alright, so if I just put something in this chest here, it gets set on its merry way. So I can toss the coconut and the banana in there. Now, this does require power. It doesn't use very much. But it's charging up. We are right-clicking, and we're going to be right-clicking with bone meal, which it just did. And it doesn't appear to have grown the fruit on this occasion that way. I'm not sure what's up with that. Usually it does. Right-clicking, round robin use, aim level, not sneaking. I think we're okay on that. So let me cut, and I will get some more bone meal and a filter and be right back. Alright, I'm back. Before I install the filter on this thing, let me click here to disable the connection to the main network so that I don't fill this thing up right away with all sorts of weird stuff. Now click on the plate there. This is inserting, and we're putting the filter in, and it's going to insert bone meal. So let me reconnect this on the network. And we're not getting bone meal just yet. Wonder why not. Oh, it's because there's no bone meal on the green network. Let's set this to the pink network. Now we should be getting bone meal, and we can in fact see coconuts dropping down very quickly as it bone meals this thing, and they get sucked into the vacuum hopper. So let's head back to the warehouse and see what's coming in. Meanwhile, back at the warehouse, we see coconuts coming in, and there are getting close to 80 of them now, and it is proceeding apace. Once we have 100,000, I'll need to stop that so that it will no longer be creating coconuts that I have no use for. and I will then switch the bone mealing process to a different kind of fruit tree, assuming that I have enough bone meal sitting in the warehouse to make that reasonable. Right now I have just over 100,000. The warehouse itself has expanded since the last episode. I'm busy moving a lot of stuff from this area over here where I've had my wall of inventories. The wall of inventories, you may not be able to tell much, but it has shrunk quite a bit. Essentially, I'm only going to be keeping the basics here, the stuff that I need in small quantities. And some of these other things are going to get moved over here where they can be drawn on off of the pink network. So I'm in the process of moving, let's say, iron over here. I will still have a small number of iron bars in the other area, but most of them will be stored here. Lead has been moved, Enderium has been moved, Ender Pearls has been moved, and so on. So before I wrap up this episode, let me mention some of the research that I've done on a few of the quests. One of the chapters I would like to start making a little bit of progress on fairly soon is the Hoarding Energy chapter. And I've been looking at these quests. It's pretty clear to me that the easiest one that still remains is upgrades, which involves making 1,000 octadic capacitors. I almost have the materials available for this. I'm a little short on vibrant metal, but I'm still producing it, and that will come through in time. The way that I'm producing vibrant metal, incidentally, is through magical crops. That means that I'm not using up ender pearls making vibrant metal. Ender pearls are an interesting situation because I did a calculation on this quest, what now, on how many ender pearls I'm going to need to make this. And the answer is that in order to make 1,000 ender generators at that tier, I'm going to need 64,000 of the lowest tier of ender generators, each one of which will require 5 ender pearls. That's a lot. That is, in fact, 320,000 ender pearls, unless I get my math wrong. When I looked at that and calculated that number, I was stunned. That's a lot of ender pearls, and it's going to take a while to generate that many. By comparison, some of these other quests, like let's take this one here, Vibrant Capacitor Bank. Using the magical crops, you can avoid the need to use any ender pearls in this. And in principle, it has a lot of ender pearls, but with magical crops, you're generating the alloy, and effectively, the ender pearls are already sort of incorporated in. This one, Resonant Energy Cell, will require ender pearls to generate resonant ender to fill the individual energy cells, I think. Actually, it may not. It may only require redstone. Even if it did, though, it would only require like 4,000 of them. And so that's a very small number by comparison. So ultimately, I think this one may be the hardest. The most complex one to assemble is definitely this one, the Solar Panel 6. But I think this one can be started sometime pretty soon. It's going to need a ton of glass. It's going to need a lot of wood. I have the wood. I don't have the glass. One of the things I'm currently doing is I'm converting things in my stockpile. I have a lot of sand in the stockpile. I don't have a lot of glass. So I've got some machines set up that are doing nothing but smelting sand into glass. And it comes out of the stockpile and it ends up going right back in. Eventually I'll have a whole lot of glass in the stockpile, and hopefully I will still have a lot of sand through sand generation because I'm going to need a lot of it. But this one I think can be started sometime reasonably soon. It's going to take a lot of machines to do it, so it may get delayed. Well, I'll just sort of have to see. I'm not 100% sure on how I'm going to pursue that. However, the ones on this page are the ones that are most easily doable. This one is going to be the easiest, 1,000 of these. I'll need another 4,000 of those to do this one, but once I have those, that will not be terribly difficult, except for the part about you have to charge it up, so there's a lot of energy generation in it. Um, I want to say that the amount of RF involved in filling those, let's see, they hold 25 million apiece and there's 1,000 of them, so you need 25 billion RF to fill it. That's a lot. It's actually nothing quite as bad as all the cobblestone. At least I don't think it is. We'll have to see. I am having energy shortages right now. I've actually got 3 banks of magmatic generators that I showed a while back set up and working. I'm going to have to add a 4th one and maybe a 5th one pretty soon. I'd like to be running 2 quarries at once before too long, and to do that I'll probably need even 6 of those. And I may resort to a different method of generating energy. I have some ideas on additional ways to generate energies. One method might be to start supplementing using some solar power by making some of these a little early. But I think there are other methods that will work quite well for that as well. That is what is on the agenda and for the near future and the current progress in the quest book. Like I said earlier, I'm having a lot of lag issues, and so there may be several short episodes, things where I don't cover a whole lot, things where I just talk a little bit about the quests that are in progress and what's going on with them. We'll see. I'm still going to try to stick to my goal of completing between 1 and 3 quests a day. That might have to slow down pretty soon, but I don't think we're really there just yet. So that's what's coming. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.